Good evening. Welcome to Gay Liberation Network's live call-in show on CAN TV. Gay Liberation Network is our local direct action group. We are focused on all varieties of struggle for people's rights, including the LGBT community. And tonight our special focus is on the workers at Hyatt hotels in the city. And we have a guest here from the workers' union, Levi Pine.
Mm-hmm.
And
to be here.
Great to have you. We have been involved at Gay Liberation Network with this boycott that is going on and some strikes that have been going on at least since the summer. And Levi is going to inform us all more about what's going on and why this is an LGBT issue. So let's start out with just in general, why a boycott, and how long has it been going on?
So I guess maybe I'll start out just talking about some of the problems with the Hyatt Corporation in general. This is one of the richest hotel corporations in the entire industry. The Hilton and Starwood Corporation have about $200 million each in terms of liquidity. Hyatt has about $1.4 billion in liquidity. And despite that, they have some of the most disgusting and horrific labor practices in the industry. They have one of the worst records on subcontracting. They especially like to partner with a third-party temp agency called HSS, Hospitality Staffing Solutions, that literally advertises their services as hotel workers in a vending machine. And because of those practices, especially in non-union hotels, especially in HSS hotels, sometimes workers have to clean up to, we've heard, 44 rooms a day, many of them on their hands and knees. And I mean, just so you get a sense of what that means, in a union hotel, especially in Chicago, the average is between 14 and 16 rooms a day. Mm-hmm. And even with that, people have debilitating injuries. So to think about doing 44 rooms a day is absolutely horrifying. I've spoken with an HSS worker who had a miscarriage at work, on the job, working at Hyatt. And, and her doctor told her that it was directly because of the work that she was doing. So this is a corporation that just refuses to take any responsibility for what it's doing. And so here in Chicago, workers have been negotiating with this company for over 2 years now. Mm-hmm. Long ago, we settled with the other major corporations in Chicago, with Hilton and Starwood. And at this point, we've agreed with Hyatt on the same wages and benefits as all the other companies in the city. But they absolutely are refusing to budge on the issue of job security. They're saying, okay, we'll give you the same wages and benefits, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to subcontract out those jobs anyway to another company. So what if we get the same wages and benefits as other companies if if those jobs aren't going to exist anymore? If they're going to go to one of these third-party 44 room a day companies. And so workers are just furious. They're completely furious that they are being asked to settle for less, that they're being treated with such disrespect.
To the point of even saying, we don't think that people should do business with our employer.
Exactly, right.
And they should boycott these hotels.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for 2 years without a contract?
Over 2 years. Yeah.
And so the union has done the workers have done things to elevate the urgency of the issue. Mm-hmm. There were some short strikes over the summer. Mm-hmm. What's going on right now with, in the situation in the relationship with Hyatt?
That's a good question. So I guess to back up, a little more than a year ago, last August, workers took the very bold step of calling for a boycott of 3 of the 4 Hyatt hotels in the Chicago area. Now it's all 4. Mm-hmm. So that's the Park Hyatt next to the Water Tower, the Hyatt Regency Chicago on Wacker, which is the biggest convention hotel in the city and the biggest Hyatt in the world. The Hyatt Regency McCormick Place next to the convention center, and the Hyatt O'Hare out at the airport. So all of those except for Hyatt McCormick was a recent addition, but that's been going on since last August. There's a total of 16 Hyatt hotels around the country where workers have taken the same bold step and decided we're not going to be, in 3 years, I don't want to face having my job be subcontracted out. So I'd rather make a sacrifice in the short term of my own wages and tips when business leaves a hotel. I'd rather make that sacrifice now than be facing unemployment when the company tries to get rid of my job in 3 years. And that boycott has been incredibly successful, wildly successful. I mean, we've pulled millions and millions of dollars from this company.
And these are like conventions that would have happened at the hotel that all of the people were going to stay at the hotel, and then they cancel their time at the hotel because because of the boycotts that are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's just, it's difficult for for people to understand why the hotel would not would not be willing to provide more job security for the employees, especially when the company is owned. The company of Hyatt is owned here in Chicago by the Pritzker family, that is based here primarily. So it's a worldwide corporation. Majority of the control is held within the Pritzker family, which is one of the richest families in the world. It's also amazing that in Chicago, a city that has been, historically very labor-oriented, and some of our largest, the biggest events and most namesake things that happen in Chicago are, about workers' rights. That, an issue of, basically workers being able to have workplace safety and be able to perform their job at a pace and with considerations that encourage their own well-being, that would be that would be here in Chicago. So I mean, it's definitely for Chicagoans. This is a general issue of just workers' rights that we should all be concerned with. As an LGBT issue, GLN, we have really focused on the reasons that this is particularly important for us is that the hospitality industry is a huge employer of our people. Just in general, hospitality through hotels and cruise lines and tourism allows an escape from what might be a very discriminatory local environment where a person lives, as well as that gives the very alluring thought of being able to get a job overseas or in a different land where things maybe are better or at least just different. And so for an oppressed people like us, it is a very, it has a lot of potential and employs a lot of our people. And then the other reason is that we have had some very great results out of our connections with labor unions. And with that, we've got a caller, and so let's speak with our caller.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, I just wanted to ask, how does Hyatt rank regarding LGBT issues compared to a lot of the other major hotel corporations?
Yeah, thanks.
Well, that depends on who you ask. Interestingly, this evening, I guess Hyatt found out that we were going to be doing this show and put a great deal of effort into making sure that their own press release got into the hands of the TV studio, explaining that the Human Rights Campaign recently ranked them, I think, #1 in their corporate rating system of friendly places. I frankly would be very curious to hear what workers they talk to. I've never heard of any workers in any of the Hyatt hotels in the area that I'm in touch with be reached out to by Joe Salmonese or any of the other folks at HRC. I'm sure it's quite a nice place to work as a manager or a corporate salesperson. I'm not in touch with many of those folks, but one of the servers at the Park Hyatt Chicago, the one next to the water tower, Gabriel Carrasquillo, who stood up at press conferences and told this this story about himself several times, is an HIV positive man who started working at Hyatt because of the health benefits that it provided. And, one of the things that Hyatt just announced at our last negotiations is they said that unless workers call off the boycott, they're going to take everyone's health insurance, which is, frankly, abhorrent. That's disgusting to me. That's Gabriel right there. That's Gabriel standing up at our press conference last week telling his story. Gabriel would have to pay $500 or more a week out of pocket for his medication just to stay alive if he didn't have his health insurance. And this is a move that, again, the Pritzker family, one of the richest families on planet Earth, wants to do that to their workers. I don't care if they're queer, identified, or straight. Everybody needs health insurance to live. And I think, it's just such an utter disrespect for humanity in general and for the people working for their company. I can't imagine that they would single out LGBT issues to be particularly concerned about.
Yeah, and in addition, the ways that HRC and some of these organizations rake these companies is based on, do they provide domestic partner benefits for their employees and things. One of the major components, if not the major component, of the boycott and the union's complaint is that the hotel wants to not have employees fulfilling the roles of housekeepers and servers and things, and they want to rely on these contract services where the employment is actually by a company such as HSS. Mm-hmm. And so on your screen now is some action that you can take. You can go and look up sleepwiththerightpeople.org, a very fun URL there, and join the Hyatt boycott. Pledge to not stay at the Hyatt hotels, and the specific hotels that are under boycott are on the website there. Mm-hmm. And there's also information on the website about other LGBT organizations that are involved in this union fight. And there's a statement from Cleve Jones, who was working with Harvey Milk back in the 70s, mm-hmm. and was instrumental in this movie Milk that came out a couple of years ago, as well as the March on Washington in 2010. Back to that topic, one of the reasons why this is an LGBT issue is because of just our historic ties where LGBT people have made significant advances through our ties with labor unions. And, let's remember that most people are workers and are laborers. And particularly during the 1990s, the unions did wonderful work at getting domestic partner benefits to become part of standard contract negotiations, mm-hmm. which then required insurance companies to start writing policies and agreements for these companies to provide these coverages for health insurance as well as other services. And so now it is fairly commonplace for all employees, whether they're in a union employer place or not, to have access to domestic partner benefits, and the insurance companies will write those policies. So I think you had some more items to add as to why this is particularly a queer LGBT concern.
Well, yeah, I think the issue of partners, benefits for domestic partners is crucial, but I guess in my mind, the more that we allow the 1% of our city and the 1% of our country oppress working people, the more everybody suffers. And, from my perspective, I feel a lot safer walking the streets as a trans-identified person because I know that I have, thousands of brothers and sisters in my union who would back me up if anything happened to me. And when I go out and protest with them, and when I have to deal with the police, and I've been assaulted by police, and I have friends who have too, trans friends who have too, and I feel much safer being able to do that because I have the support of my brothers and sisters in the union. And likewise, workers' abilities to protest and raise themselves up and fight for something better and fight to not have to choose between their livelihoods and their health, like Hyatt is as forcing people to do, that depends on people being willing to stand up to the police. And so that's why they're inextricable issues.
Yeah. And so there is this thing we've made reference to that Hyatt is threatening to take away the workers' health care benefits, health care insurance, unless they step away from the boycott. We do still encourage you to join the boycott at the URL on your screen, sleepwiththerightpeople.org. Health care is a major gay issue and trans issue, as well as lesbian and bisexual concern. And with there's a variety of health concerns that have repeatedly been surveyed to be more acute within the LGBT community. And so this threat of taking away healthcare insurance is even more acute for LGBT folks. The other aspect of this is that there's a gay organization, International Mr. Leather, that holds a significantly large convention at the Hyatt Regency and has had it there for the last few years and is under contract to have it there in Memorial Day of 2012. And so GLN has communicated directly with IML, International Mr. Leather, and the founder, Chuck Renslow, about their involvement, and we've had a hostile response from them of their lack of concern. And there's some engagement in the Windy City Times this week. You can see on the op-ed page on this topic. What has the union done in discussions with IML, and where
does that stand?
Where does that stand?
So maybe more than a year ago, last fall, the late R.J. Chafin and Chuck Renslow, the president of Local 1, Henry Tamrin, and several Hyatt workers, I don't remember, 3 or 4 Hyatt workers, had a meeting discussing the issue of the boycott and why it was crucial that people honored the boycott. And they basically just said no. They said, we're not going to do that. We have a contract. We would like to honor our contract, which I understand. But frankly, if workers are calling for a boycott of their own hotels, if workers are making sacrifices of their meager livelihoods to fight for their long-term security, then people need to respect that. And I'm not going to say that we are asking IML to make a sacrifice. We're asking them to make a significant sacrifice. And that's because workers have made that sacrifice first. When people already live paycheck to paycheck. And especially like in the winter, if people lose 1 or 2 shifts because an event cancels, that hurts. That hurts people. And they went into that eyes open because people deserve to go to work and not count on being injured. Hyatt has one of the highest injury rates in the entire hotel industry. And it's not a coincidence. It's because of the work that they make people do. The amount of it, the severity of it, the number of days that they go without having a day off. And for customers to be so myopic that they would, I think that the reason that our economy is in the situation it's in right now is because for years, for decades, people were complicit with everything that was going wrong. Like people shuffling paper at the banks allowed homes to be foreclosed on, saying, well, I'm not the decision maker, I'm just doing this. Well, now we're in this situation because nobody took responsibility.
Yeah. So please do get involved. Go to Gay Liberation Network's website, which is www.gayliberation.net, as well as come out and join us at events that we have going on. Most closest coming up here is December 17th, and GLN is sponsoring this March for Justice, which is taking place at noon at Federal Plaza, Adams, and Dearborn Streets. It is focused on bringing together the combination of the fact that Bradley Manning, a gay soldier that is allegedly the informant for WikiLeaks and brought some transparency to our government and our wars. It's his birthday, as well as the day after an important hearing in his case. Also, it is the 3-month anniversary of the Occupy movement, and so it is a location that will be coordinated with the Occupy folks, and related a lot to the things that we're talking about on this show is that the 99%, the workers and the people that are making these companies run are benefiting, the 1%, which is the kind of the slogan of the Occupy movement, and that's very much related to this Hyatt worker struggle that we have going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So please do come out and join us, and check out Gay Liberation's website for additional information. So as far as why this is a gay issue, there's several things that we've talked about in this program. Number one is that we are the employees, we are the laborers that are in this union, trying to get our concerns addressed. Number two is that we have benefited from our solidarity with workers in general for decades. Number three is that healthcare is a large part of these worker contract negotiations, and healthcare is particularly acutely needed for LGBT folks.
Yeah.
And fourthly, just our solidarity with people, with all oppressed people, will allow them to help us when we need help ourselves, which is frequent in both halls of Congress and in society at large. So thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you, Levi, for coming out. And on your screen, you can see the website to join this particular boycott of Hyatt at sleepwiththerightpeople.org. December 17th, Saturday, noon, Federal Plaza. Come out and support Bradley Manning, a gay soldier that has taken a stand for liberty and justice for all. Our next meeting is 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 4th at Granville and Sheridan, just off the Red Line Granville stop. We invite everyone to come and join us and take part in making things happen on these various struggles that we are involved with. And also check out our next show, which is coming up very soon, just a couple weeks, 6:30 p.m. here on KNTV, December 23rd, Friday. Have a good night.